I feel like the Bricks and Minifigs drama is the same conflict as It Ends With Us, but since the white guys weren't paying attention to that, the universe decided to use Lego. I'm Brianna. I've been following the drama between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni this year, so I'm very well versed in the conflict as I've been analyzing Blake. And when I was watching CoffeeZilla's video last week, investigating the drama and the actual value of the Lego collection, I saw some things that reminded me of Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni. And after a little bit, I was like, it's because it's the same. It's the same situation. It's the same story, different players and different stakes, but the lesson remains. I'm gonna give you my take. I will start with a synopsis of each story and go through the similarities and end with what I think the universe wants us to learn. Bricks and Minifigs, November 14th, 2024. Bricks and Minifigs took over the Kaiser, Oregon Bricks and Minifigs store. A dispute emerged involving a six-figure Star Wars Lego consignment that the new store owners chose not to honor. The consignor, Brian Mansell, spent months trying to recover either his Lego or payment. After getting nowhere, he connected with a YouTuber by the name of Reckless Ben. In January 2026, Reckless Ben started his own campaign to secure the Lego or the money, and that escalated into a bizarre conflict involving store owners, police interactions, public backlash, and lawsuits. Now let's talk about It Ends With Us. In 2024, Blake Lively faced significant online backlash during the promotion of the movie It Ends With Us, which premiered August 9th, 2024. The very next day, a problematic 2016 interview involving Blake Lively was released, and that just added fuel to the fire. Months later, Blake Lively accused Justin Baldoni, her co-star and director, of misconduct in running a smear campaign against her in a New York Times article, followed by a lawsuit. Wayfair, the production company, fought back, released evidence challenging Blake's account, and the conflict spiraled into a huge mess that ironically seems like it will never end. I think these two situations have a lot in common, and it all sort of has the same arc. So let's get into that. First of all, both of these stories have word salad.
It's just like an amalgamation of contradictions, yet it made perfect sense for her.
So we have, our attorneys have visited, like, again, so who's like...
More seriously, both of these stories have a very unique feature of information being released that normally would not be available. And It Ends With Us, we got to see text messages, unredacted, that were not originally released January 2026. We were seeing texts between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift as they're trashing the director. We saw text emails from Sony. We just saw a lot that I don't think anybody has really ever been privy to. On top of that, there was video evidence to refute some of Blake's claims, which is not unlike the video evidence of the previous owner of the Bricks and Minifigs store explicitly telling Joshua Johnson, who came and took over the store, that there is a consignment and this person needs to be paid out. Also on the Bricks and Minifigs side, we have unredacted police body cam footage. It was accidentally uploaded with the other footage that I assume was provided from a FOIA request. I personally don't think it was an accident. I think somebody there knew that what had happened was wrong and they wanted to expose it. The foundation of both of these conflicts is a refusal of accountability followed by rejection of low-cost off-ramps. At multiple stages in each of these conflicts, the party that is now at risk or has experienced loss could have made a decision that would have stopped the bleed and significantly improve the outcome of this. For Blake Lively, there is an email or text from Sony saying she needs to apologize to the reporter. She could have done that. She also could have gone to a women's shelter or something to counterbalance the fact that she was promoting an alcohol beverage line during a movie about domestic violence. Obviously, Bricks and Minifigs at so many different points in the story could have just attempted to see what Brian Mansell was owed. Like, just opened their eyes and looked at the contract. That would have helped at any point in the story at multiple stages, and we wouldn't be here facing lawsuits. Next, both stories, interestingly, have demands for apologies early in the process. This isn't super significant in the scheme of the whole thing, but it is significant because they both illustrate a bid to try to regain power in a situation that they've lost control of. For It Ends With Us, Ryan Reynolds actually wrote a letter for Wayfair to put out, taking accountability for the backlash Blake was getting. Joshua Johnson, the store owner that Reckless Ben was dealing with, at one point told him that if Brian Mansell apologized on video for the post he made, he would give the logo back. They do that, and then he moves the goalposts and say that they have to apologize to the store manager who wouldn't speak to them. Honestly, that reminded me of the scam stories that we've been hearing about, where this scammer tries to buy property and they got to do a wire transfer and it just didn't go through and the bank closed and my mom died. Like, all of these different things happen. That's what that reminds me of. And it makes me wonder, is the problem that they can't afford to pay Brian Mansell back? Considering this situation actually helped me to see that had Wayfair put out that apology, Ryan probably still wouldn't have been satisfied, because neither Justin nor Reckless Ben or Brian Mansell were the source of the issue. The issue was coming from their original behavior. That is what had to be mitigated for things to be, for the trajectory they were on to change. For my next thing, I feel like it's the most important element of both of these stories, because without this, the next thing couldn't have happened. It couldn't have escalated, and that is the flying monkeys. Now, I like to think of each of these stories in stages, because there's a stage of what happened before things became catastrophic, and then there's what happened when it became catastrophic. So stage one, with It Ends With Us, I would say that Sony, the production company, was a flying monkey, because they let Blake get her way. They pressured Wayfair to let Blake have her way, and they made them let Blake edit the movie herself. And the second flying monkey would be Colleen Hoover, because Colleen backed Blake. She vouched for Blake's version of the film, even though it didn't score as highly as Justin's. For stage two, obviously the New York Times was the biggest flying monkey, because they allowed her to tell her story and didn't even give Wayfair, I believe, 24 hours to respond to it. They were on Blake's side, and she allegedly was not being totally truthful. For Bricks and Minifigs, interestingly, for stage one, I think Ammon McNeff, the CEO, the guy that we're seeing everywhere with the villain mustache, I think he was the flying monkey, because the buck stops with corporate. He at any point could have made them honor the agreement, or could have taken responsibility as the CEO of the company to honor the agreement. But he didn't do that. And the fact that he's the CEO almost makes me think that there might have been a little bit of collusion. That's just what I'm thinking. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but that's what it seems like. And very obviously, for stage two of the Bricks and Minifigs drama, the flying monkey was the American Folk Police Department.
He inherited the store. He's being blamed for everything that the previous owner did.
Boy, they've got an issue on their hands, because the citizens of that town know what those cops did, and it's not looking good, and it's setting them up for a lawsuit. But had they not made the choices they made collectively, maybe Bricks and Minifigs would have just worked out a deal. Maybe they would have just resolved the issue. Because while Reckless Ben was doing some reckless stuff, I mean, that guy's called Reckless Ben for a reason. He was doing like viable things to cause a solution to happen, or a mediation to happen. And they didn't allow that to transpire. Okay, I feel like this next point is truly the most significant feature of both of these conflicts, and a big part of the lesson that we're supposed to learn. Each of these conflicts has the internet as a third party. The internet is an egregore. That means that the sum of it is somehow greater than the parts. The internet has its own life. Although it doesn't have a consciousness, it moves, it bees, it does. And it played a role in these conflicts. It wasn't just where it took place, but the internet collectively intervened or interfered, however you look at it. So for It Ends With Us, obviously that YouTube video.
So congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
And people's reaction to it was one of the main stumbling blocks for them. And then in the latter stage, I mean, there's so many people who contributed, but significantly, I believe it was Without a Crystal Ball who uncovered a sham lawsuit that was used to fish for information to use against Wayfair. For Bricks and Minifigs, obviously, Reckless Ben, an agent of the internet, was a significant player in this conflict, and his followers. And once he started posting those videos online, all of us in the viewing audience, or YouTube at large, became part of the force that Ammon McNeff and Bricks and Minifigs was going up against. Honorable mention to CoffeeZilla, who apparently was the first person to actually go through and look at the books and try to reconcile what has been sold with what is still in stock and what Ben has been paid. He was the first person to do that, and he did it for free. Compliments of the internet. I think this one is the most obvious. Instead of at any point these two parties understanding that what was happening to them was a consequence of their actions, they both have insisted that they are experiencing a smear campaign. Blake Lively obviously sued, claiming that she had been a part of a smear campaign, and she even considered the countersuit against her part of the smear campaign, and she said that Wayfair's lawyer was a part of the smear campaign. Ammon McNeff, on behalf of Bricks and Minifigs, has talked about what the franchisees are going through as a result of the backlash, not a result of the bad business that people are now aware of and reacting to. They're again not taking accountability, which moves to my last point. Instead of backing down, they are doubling down. They are not seeing the pattern, which is that they're going after someone and coming away in a worse position. Blake sued Justin, Wayfair, and Jed Wallace, who they had consulted for crisis PR. And she lost more and more through that process. Now she's settled. She continued her fight to get attorney's fees, and allegedly she's going to continue trying to sue for damages. But we already know that none of those things are going to help her get what she actually wants, which is to be restored in the favor of America. When you're going against a person that the internet wants to protect, you will always lose. Bricks and Minifigs needs to take note of this and stop what they're doing. Ammon McNeff and Bricks and Minifigs, I suppose, is suing Reckless Ben and Brian Mansell for defamation and a civil RICO. RICO stands for Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organization. They are alleging that Reckless Ben and Brian Mansell coordinated a multi-state campaign of extortion, harassment, and defamation. We are on Ben's side. There's nothing you can do that will make us hate Ben. There is a lot you can do that will make us hate you. And they have to conceptualize that and accept that this is how it is and cut their losses and go away. That is the only way out. Obviously, there are many differences in this situation. To me, the main difference is that Blake and Ryan, and anytime I said Blake, put Ryan there because they act as one, or it's Ryan acting on behalf of Blake. Blake and Ryan have more power and influence. And I'm gonna be honest, I liked them as a couple a lot. I felt like they were always fun to see on interviews. So they had people, they had favor. We didn't know Ammon McNeff at all. And never heard of Bricks and Minifigs before last week. So there's less incentive for the public to back Bricks and Minifigs or give them another chance or go easy on them. Should the internet be exacting justice on people? No, not necessarily. You definitely shouldn't be reaching out to unrelated parties involved, like Bricks and Minifigs franchisees. They have nothing to do with it. But this is how it is. And I would hope that Ammon McNeff could maybe have a download and recognize that what he's going through is what Blake Lively has already been through, and it's not going well for her. She does have more people willing to support her because she already had favor, but we don't know Ammon McNeff, so good luck to him. I hope I have illustrated that these situations are essentially the same story. It's the same conflict arc as I mentioned. Because it's clearly not about the asset. It's clearly not about Lego. It's not about control of a movie. It's not about fans. It's about the party with power thinking that they were fighting a person and finding out they're fighting an audience, which is the internet. That's what both of these stories are about. And you simply cannot fight the internet. The internet is like your overzealous friend with an anger problem. They're just going. They don't even know what they're going for or whatever, but they're gonna have your back. That's the internet, and they cannot beat the internet. Suing opponents will not make the internet give your power back. The opponent cannot give it back, and the internet will also not give it back because you won a lawsuit. If anything, they're gonna punish you for that. When I was talking about Blake, so many people pushed back, like, why take the time to try to understand her? She's just evil, she's a narcissist, psychopath. But I always felt that these people are not unfamiliar. These are people that we know, it's just the scale is not as big because the people around us don't have the levels of power that even Bricks and Minifigs has. This conflict is really about, and what a lot of conflicts are about, where the person won't back down, is identity. And the lesson is twofold. The first part of it is that we have entered an age, maybe it's the age of Aquarius thing, but we have entered an age where the internet is the reckoning. It's not exactly institutions anymore. It's not exactly religion. It's not the justice system, because we don't always get justice. We can't always depend on our religious leaders to lead us in the right way. But the internet will teach you, for better or for worse. The internet can help you grow, and the internet can get you caught up in some mess like this. And I think we have to understand that while it provides anonymity, it also can provide accountability. So we have to reckon with the new information we get about ourselves and our identity privately to avoid expanding conflicts publicly. Because it's not just this. Like, this is a macrocosm of when somebody gets called out on Instagram, like a hairstylist gets called out for keeping somebody's deposit or not delivering social media content. It's the same thing, just on a greater scale with higher stakes. I think the most important part of this lesson is that the source of your identity needs to come from within you. It needs to come from within us. It needs to be based on us understanding the immutable truths about who we are as humans, understanding that we have value apart from what we do, how we look, who we're connected to, what businesses we own, what Lego we consigned, what people think of you on the internet. And if the parties involved in this could begin to conceptualize this, they could put their weapons down and make the changes they need to make and stop the bleed and try to rebuild from where they are. But right now, these people are staring down the barrel of their identities, which they do not like, hearing stories that they cannot handle, and the ego is what is driving them to do everything but look in the mirror and say, who am I really? Because they're trying to protect who they want to be, who they want people to think they are, and they're not seeing who they are actually being. It's not about rights to a movie sequel. It's not about justice for retaliation. It's not about Lego. It's about identity. It ends with ego. If you're interested in the patterns beneath the headlines, subscribe. I'll see you next time.